I never thought my own family would betray me so deeply. While I was working 70-hour weeks at my tech startup, climbing the ladder despite no college degree, my aunt accidentally sent me a video that changed everything. There, they were laughing about me being a pathetic failure while I paid their bills for years. The shock froze me completely. But sometimes, the people closest to you teach the hardest lessons about self-worth. Let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button before I tell you what happened when their next payment was due. I grew up in a household that was always struggling financially. My dad worked multiple jobs but could never quite make ends meet, and my mom was constantly stressed about bills piling up on our kitchen counter. Despite our financial difficulties, they always emphasized the importance of family sticking together through tough times. This belief was ingrained in me from an early age. Unlike my cousins, I did not have the privilege of going to college. After high school, I immediately started working, taking whatever jobs I could find. While my friends were enjoying college life, I was hustling, learning coding on my own after long shifts at retail jobs. By 25, I had taught myself enough programming to land a junior developer position at a promising tech startup in Austin. The company grew rapidly, and so did my role within it. Within 3 years, I had moved up to lead developer, and my salary quadrupled. When the startup secured major funding, my stock options suddenly had real value. For the first time in my life, I had more money than immediate needs. At first, my family seemed genuinely proud of me. Dad would brag to his coworkers about his son, the tech genius. Mom would call just to tell me how she always knew I would make something of myself. But there were subtle hints of resentment too, especially from my extended family. Comments like, "Well, not all of us can be lucky enough to fall into the right job," stung, but I brushed them off. It started with small requests. My Aunt Martha, who had essentially become the family matriarch after my parents divorced, needed help with her property taxes. It was a reasonable request, and I was happy to help the woman who had often watched me when my parents worked late. Then my younger sister Laura needed help with medical bills for her chronic migraines. Of course, I covered those too. Over time, these requests became more frequent and larger in amount. My cousin Travis constantly pitched me business ideas, each one requiring just a small loan to get started. None of these ventures ever seemed to materialize into anything profitable, and the loans were never repaid. My parents separately asked for help with car repairs, home improvements, and eventually their mortgages. Before I knew it, I was supporting most of my extended family in one way or another. Family gatherings became uncomfortable affairs. They would praise me publicly, raising toasts to my success, but there were always underhanded comments that made me question their sincerity. "We barely see Zoe anymore. Too important for family now that he has money," my aunt would say with a laugh that did not reach her eyes. Or my dad would introduce me as my son, the one with the real job, making my cousins visibly uncomfortable. Despite these tensions, I continued increasing my financial support. When Laura needed specialized treatment for her migraines, I paid for her to see the top neurologist in the state. When Aunt Martha mentioned her roof was leaking, I replaced her entire roof. When Travis totaled his car, I bought him a new one. My financial advisor cautiously suggested I might be overextending myself, but I dismissed his concerns. These were family obligations, I reasoned, not investments expecting returns. As my career continued to flourish, I found myself having to miss occasional family events due to work commitments. Each absence was met with increasing resentment, regardless of how legitimate my reasons were. I was beginning to suspect that my value to them was primarily as a financial resource rather than as a family member. But I pushed these thoughts aside as uncharitable. Family was family, after all. The day that changed everything started like any other Tuesday. I was preparing for an important meeting with potential investors, reviewing slides and rehearsing my presentation. My phone buzzed several times, but I ignored it until after the meeting concluded successfully. When I finally checked my messages, I saw multiple notifications from my aunt, which was unusual. The first was a video attachment that had been sent hours earlier. Then there were several frantic text messages. "Please ignore that video. Sent by mistake. Not what it looks like, call me as soon as possible." Curious and slightly concerned, I played the video. It appeared to be from the family dinner I had missed the previous weekend due to my investor presentation preparation. The camera seemed to be set on the dining table, initially capturing empty plates and glasses, before Aunt Martha apparently set her phone down without ending the recording. What I heard next made my blood run cold. "Too bad Zoe could not bother showing up again," my aunt said off camera. "Too busy being important at his fancy job. He probably just did not want to be hit up for more money." My dad responded with a laugh that sounded nothing like the warm chuckle I remembered from childhood. "As if that has ever stopped any of us before," Travis said, and several people laughed. The camera angle shifted as someone moved the phone, now showing several family members around the table. My mom, dad, Aunt Martha, Travis, and to my shock, even my sister Laura. "You have to admit it is pretty pathetic," my mother continued. "All that money, and what does he have to show for it? No wife, no kids, not even a proper house. Just that sterile apartment and his computer screens." "I still cannot believe he paid for your entire roof, Martha," my dad said. "I only mentioned it was leaking in one spot." Aunt Martha smirked. "He is so desperate for approval, it is almost too easy. Just throw in something about being proud of him, and he opens his wallet right up." "Remember when he bought Travis a car after he totaled the old one?" Laura added, and everyone laughed. "That was after Travis had been texting him for weeks about being a bad brother for missing your birthday, Dad. The best part is he thinks these are loans," Travis said, making air quotes around the word loans, "as if any of us are ever paying that back." "Well, he should be grateful we still include him at all," my mom said, taking a sip of wine. "It is not like he makes any effort to be part of this family unless we need something." "To the family ATM," Travis said, raising his glass. Everyone clinked glasses, laughing. Aunt Martha suddenly appeared closer to the camera, her eyes widening in horror as she apparently realized she was still recording. The video abruptly ended. I sat frozen in my office chair, unable to process what I had just witnessed. These people I had supported for years, whom I had prioritized above my own financial security at times, were laughing about manipulating me. The realization that they saw me not as a loved family member, but as a resource to exploit, felt like a physical blow. My phone continued buzzing with messages from my aunt, but I could not bring myself to respond. Instead, I opened my financial tracking software and began tallying exactly how much I had loaned or given to family members over the past 5 years. The final number stunned me: $175,342. That was almost 2 years of my salary, even at my current level. Every single car payment for my dad. The monthly stipend to my mom after she claimed she could not afford her utilities. My sister's medical bills, which I now questioned the legitimacy of. Aunt Martha's roof property taxes and vacation to Florida. Travis's car rent support, and those endless business ventures that never materialized. All of it was documented in my meticulous financial records. None of the loans had ever been repaid. Not even partially. And based on what I had just heard, none of them had ever intended to repay me. But what hurt most was not the money. It was hearing them mock my life choices, call me pathetic, and laugh about manipulating me while simultaneously resenting my success. They did not care about me as a person at all. I spent that entire evening reviewing years of text messages with new eyes. The pattern was obvious now. Every expression of affection was followed by a financial request. Every invitation to family events came with subtle guilt trips about my success. Every thank you was shallow and quickly forgotten. The following days passed in a blur. I went through the motions at work, but my mind was consumed by the video and its implications. Aunt Martha called repeatedly, then sent messages claiming they had just been joking, that I was misinterpreting everything, that family sometimes says harsh things, but it does not mean anything. Classic gaslighting. I realized now that my eyes were open to their manipulation. As the end of the month approached, so did the day when I typically sent money to various family members. My phone began lighting up with the usual subtle reminders. Just checking in to see how you are doing from my mom, followed immediately by mention of her upcoming insurance payment. Miss you bro from Travis, with a subsequent note about his rent being due. Having bad migraine days from Laura with a mention of medication costs, I made no response to any of them. For the first time, I saw clearly what I needed to do. After a week of silence, I finally responded to my family's increasingly panicked messages with a simple text to our family group chat. I will be attending Sunday dinner this week. Nothing more, nothing less. The flurry of relieved responses confirmed what I suspected. They were worried about their money, not about me. In the days before the dinner, I prepared meticulously. I consulted with a financial advisor about completely separating my finances from my family's obligations. I spoke with a therapist to help process my feelings of betrayal and prepare for the confrontation ahead. I gathered all financial records, printed statements, and compiled a folder with every transaction clearly documented. I also saved multiple copies of the video to ensure it could not be deleted remotely from my aunt's phone. When Sunday arrived, I dressed carefully in the same outfit I wore for investor meetings, a subtle armor of professionalism. The drive to Aunt Martha's house felt surreal, knowing this would likely be my last family dinner for a very long time. The reception when I arrived was telling. Relief, not joy, was the predominant emotion on their faces. Aunt Martha hugged me too tightly, whispering, "So glad you could make it. We need to talk privately later," which I now recognized as her attempting to do damage control. Dinner proceeded with artificial normalcy. They asked perfunctory questions about my work, careful to avoid any direct mentions of money. I answered politely but briefly. When dessert was served, I cleared my throat. "I would like to watch a family video together," I said, calmly pulling out my phone. "Oh, we do not need to waste time on videos," Aunt Martha said quickly. "I was thinking we could discuss your sister's new treatment options. This will only take a few minutes," I insisted, connecting my phone to her television through the streaming device I had purchased for her last Christmas. Before anyone could object further, I played the video. The room fell silent as their own voices filled the space, their cruel words and laughter echoing back at them. My dad stared at his plate. My mom covered her mouth. Travis examined his fingernails. Laura had tears in her eyes. Only Aunt Martha tried to interrupt. "This is taken completely out of context," she began, but I held up my hand. "Please let it finish," I said quietly. When the video ended, I opened my folder. "I have been supporting this family financially for 5 years now," I said, my voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm me. "In total, I have provided $175, 342 inches. What I was led to believe were either loans or necessary assistance for people I loved who were in need." I placed the financial statements on the table. Here is a breakdown by person. Dad, $42, 610 for your car mortgage assistance and home repairs. Mom, $38, 975 for your monthly expenses and the trip to see Grandma you said you could not afford. Aunt Martha, $51, 240 for your roof, property taxes, vacation, and various household expenses. Travis, $31, 517 for your car rent and those business ventures that never seemed to materialize. Laura, $11,000 for your medical treatments. I looked at each of them in turn. None of these were ever repaid, even partially. Based on the video I just showed you, it seems none of you ever intended to repay any of it. "We are family," my dad finally said weakly. "Family helps family. Family does not mock each other behind their backs," I responded. "Family does not call each other pathetic failures while taking their money. Family does not strategize about how to manipulate someone for financial gain." I took a deep breath. Effective immediately, all financial support stops. I will not be providing any more money to anyone in this room for any reason. The protests erupted, immediately overlapping excuses and justifications. I held up my hand again, and surprisingly they fell silent. "Laura," I said, turning to my sister, whose tears seemed genuinely remorseful, "I will continue to pay for your legitimate medical expenses, but those payments will go directly to providers, not to you. I will need documentation of all appointments and treatments. The rest of you are adults capable of supporting yourselves. You have jobs, homes, and resources that many people would be grateful for. If you have become accustomed to living beyond your means because of my contributions, I suggest scaling back your expenses accordingly." "You cannot just cut us off, Aunt Martha," said her voice rising. "We are your family. We have needs." "You have wants, not needs," I corrected her. "And you have each other. You can support each other the way family is supposed to, instead of relying on the person you call a pathetic failure when you think he cannot hear you," Travis tried next. "Come on, man, we were just joking around. You know how family dinner conversation goes. Nobody meant anything by it." "I believe you meant every word," I replied. "And that is why this decision is final." The rest of the evening descended into chaos. There were tears, accusations, attempts at gaslighting, and when those failed, outright begging. My mom insisted I was overreacting. My dad suggested I was mentally unstable from working too hard. Aunt Martha tried to claim the video had been edited somehow. Through it all, I remained calm, neither raising my voice nor engaging with their increasingly desperate attempts to change my mind. When I finally stood to leave, Laura followed me to the door. "I am truly sorry, Zoe," she said quietly. "I got caught up in it all, trying to fit in with them. I should have been better." I looked at my little sister, the only one who seemed to genuinely regret her actions rather than just their consequences. "I know," I said. "That is why you are the only one I am still willing to help. But things will be different now." I walked out of Aunt Martha's house feeling both devastated and strangely liberated, like I had set down a burden I had not realized was crushing me. The weeks following that confrontation were some of the most difficult of my life. My phone was bombarded with messages ranging from apologetic to accusatory. My parents took turns playing good cop and bad cop, with my mom sending tearful voice messages while my dad sent angry texts about family responsibility. Aunt Martha attempted to rally extended family members to her cause, resulting in calls from distant relatives I barely knew. I maintained my silence, with most of them responding only to provide information about how to directly contact my sister's medical providers for verification of appointments. Even then, I kept communications brief and factual. During this time, I sought professional support to process my grief. Because it was grief I was feeling, the counselor explained the loss of the family I thought I had. I mourned the relationships I had believed in, even as I accepted they had never been real. Gradually, I began reconnecting with friends I had neglected while prioritizing my family's demands. To my surprise, many welcomed me back without hesitation. James, my college roommate whom I had lost touch with, invited me to his son's birthday party. Alicia, a colleague who had often invited me to social gatherings I was too busy for, seemed genuinely delighted when I finally accepted. These authentic connections highlighted how one-sided my family relationships had been. These friends wanted my presence, not my wallet. They asked about my interests, my thoughts, my dreams, not just my work and finances. After 3 months of very limited contact, Laura reached out with an invitation to meet for coffee. Our relationship was tentatively rebuilding on more honest terms. She was working full-time now, managing her health more independently, and had moved out of our parents' influence. Our conversations were sometimes uncomfortable but always authentic. With my newfound financial freedom, I began exploring charitable giving to causes I cared about. The local coding boot camp for disadvantaged youth particularly resonated with me. I established a scholarship fund and volunteered as a mentor, finding joy in helping students who reminded me of my younger self. I developed a new personal philosophy about money and relationships. Generosity was still important to me, but I learned to distinguish between generosity and enabling dependency. I became more mindful about why I was giving, what healthy boundaries looked like, and the importance of reciprocity in relationships, even if that reciprocity did not come in financial form. The hardest lesson was learning about forgiveness. Not the kind that welcomes toxic people back into your life, but the kind that releases their power over you. I did not forget what my family had done, and I did not resume financial support or close relationships with most of them. But gradually I let go of the anger that initially consumed me. With time, I found peace. In a smaller circle of authentic relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care, I realized my worth was never in my wallet or my willingness to solve others' problems. My true value lay in who I was as a person, the integrity with which I lived my life, and the authentic connections I cultivated. Sometimes I still feel twinges of sadness about how things turned out. Family gatherings during holidays are smaller now, usually just Laura and me, plus a few close friends who have become chosen family. But these gatherings are filled with genuine warmth and laughter, not the undercurrent of resentment and calculation that I now realize characterized our larger family events. That accidental video was the most painful gift I ever received. It stripped away illusions but gave me the chance to build something real in their place. Sometimes losing what you thought you had is necessary to make room for what you truly deserve. Have you ever discovered someone's true feelings about you by accident? How did you handle it, and what boundaries did you set afterward? Share your experiences in the comments, and do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if it resonated with you. Remember, your worth is never determined by what you can provide for others, but by the authenticity and self-respect you bring to your relationships. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you relationships built on genuine love and respect, not obligation or advantage.